also be speaking here to Jonathan Masai in just a short while. He's an education researcher and director at Discovery Learning Alliance. We'll be speaking to him in just a short while. But I wonder if we can take a look at what's happening at Shimo Latewa High School in Mombasa to see what's going on. Obviously, not much fanfare as we have been used to. Let's hear from Nancy Washir from the Teachers Service Commission. I believe she's speaking now.
During the short period he has been at the ministry. In particular, I wish to most sincerely thank the Cabinet Secretary for mobilizing all of us to candidly address past shortcomings in the national examination processes. Due to our collective efforts, we were able to deliver credible KCSE examinations. I also wish to acknowledge the key role played by the NEC chairman, Professor George Magoha. Although Professor Magoha joined the NEC only 7 months before the 2016 national examinations, he led us with so much ease, enthusiasm, energy and focus, such that you'd think he had been at the Examinations Council for his entire working life. Please let us clap for these two gentlemen. He tells us at the council that he is a surgeon, but I think he has become a better educationist than the rest of us who have been there for years. Crucially, it was as a result of our different but complementary roles, whether in the Ministry of Education, Ministry of ICT, security agencies, Teacher Service Commission, NEC, that we managed to deliver an examination we are all proud of. No doubt it was as a result of teamwork. At the Teacher Service Commission, we are glad to have been part of the team that has definitely made a difference by restoring the respect and credibility of our national examinations. It is for this reason that I take this early opportunity, to thank all principals of our secondary schools and the thousands of supervisors, invigilators, examiners, and all our field officers who did a sterling job during the administration and marking of Kenya KCSE. But allow me a few minutes, Bwana Waziri, because like the Principal Secretary has said, we are the people who prepare, our teachers prepare the children from entry to exit. We manage the examination process. So allow me to make a few comments on a teacher's perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, I would digress a bit by telling you about a letter I received from a teacher a few days after the administration of the last KCSE paper. A long letter from a teacher in one of our public secondary schools came through the post office. The teacher wrote to commend our collective efforts in delivering credible KCPE and KCSE examinations. Maybe the Cabinet Secretary received a similar letter at Jogo. The letter dwelt on many issues relating to the conduct of KCSE, including very useful feedback on the 2016 examination strategy and proposals for building on our success. But one plain and simple paragraph in the teacher's letter struck me for the way it captured what had gone wrong in our schools. Allow me to read that paragraph in the letter. It said, actually, it has been very frustrating for teachers to teach students who had already switched off learning because they expected a leakage. The culture of not reading or not working hard had entrenched itself in schools because most students in other classes had seen it obvious that they will access leakage when their year or time comes. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the experience from an ordinary classroom teacher of mathematics and geography. This letter from a teacher in an ordinary mixed-day school in our country captured the frustrations of most of our teachers, head teachers, and principals. We have wasted generations, literally murdered our own country through exam cheating. Look at the many educated young graduates without critical and analytical skills who can't even express or even write fluently. Need I go further? This therefore underscores the reason why we should jealously guard against the success we made in 2016 examinations. Like many of you who participated in the administration and processing of KCSE, I have interacted with many teachers and heard their views on the
and principals confessed that examination results whose integrity is wanting hurt them most. This is because they are members of a respectable profession, and moreover, such results can never help them accurately ascertain their success as lead educators. And so we at the TSC will continue working with all stakeholders to restore the integrity of national examinations for 4 main reasons. One, first, as the agency in charge of all aspects of teacher management, we strive to ensure that our teachers inculcate the right values in our children. These values include honesty, integrity, transparency, and hard work. Indeed, these are some of the values that our Constitution holds so dear. As the teacher who wrote the letter aptly put it, we cannot inculcate the values of honesty, integrity, transparency, and hard work when the learners believe they are shortcuts to passing examinations. Second, that teachers play the most critical role in inculcating the right values in our children at the right age. If our teachers do not instill the values, we can be sure that all attempts by other socializing agents can only achieve limited success. And thirdly, examinations have the important purpose of selection. If we select the wrong people to study medicine, teaching, engineering, law, and so on, then we will most likely end up with doctors, teachers, and so on, who have no professional integrity and ethics. It pains me to even imagine that probably some of our teachers are products of the same fraudulent practice, and most likely that's why they have no qualms inculcating the same to their students. These are some of the issues we shall be sorting out as we reform the teaching service. Some painful decisions will have to be made, and they will be made, including issues touching on supervision in the field, because Kenyans are asking for accountability from all of us. Fourthly, the TSC has a very big stake in the integrity and credibility of examinations. It is a fact that we regularly make important teacher management decisions on the basis of national examinations, like promotions, deployments, and so on. It is therefore in our own interest as a teacher's employer to have results that have credibility. That is why we will render unequivocal support to all efforts directed at institutionalizing integrity in the country's examinations. And ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to once again underscore the credibility of integrity and credibility of results. I'm certain that the 2016 results meet the desired threshold of integrity and credibility, which I'm proud to be associated with. I'm really excited that we shall be issuing quality certificates that will open doors to our children globally without them being forced to sit re-entry examinations elsewhere. Consequently, the Commission will analyze the results and make certain decisions on the basis of individual schools' scores. These decisions include career progression and deployments in the teaching service, especially touching on the performance appraisal, performance contract, and more so as we progress teachers in as per the CBA that we recently signed. Those who in the past thrived by adulterating our school system must also be ready to suffer consequences now and in future. It is proved that some principals and teachers benefited from, if it is proved that some principals and teachers benefited from fraudulent results, there will be need to correct this situation, and it will be corrected. It will be no longer business as usual. We must be alive to the fact that our country will stand or fall on the basis of integrity of examinations and our school system. Finally, as a member of the Kenya National Examinations Council, I represent the TSA. I wish to restate the Teacher Service Commission to reforms in the education sector. In view of this, and in line with the Code of Regulations for Teachers that assigns head teachers and principals the role of lead educators, they will continue playing a key role in the management of the examination process going forward. And with these remarks, I wish to thank you very much indeed for listening to me.
Thank you. I think we can give a better applause to our sister Nancy. Thank you very much. And as she mentioned, I would want to most sincerely thank and acknowledge the role that the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government did. And while Nancy was making her comments, our regional coordinator, Bwana Marwa, came in. Please, regional coordinator, please wave our crowd. And I would want to acknowledge his contribution in this region on the management of examination, because he did quite a lot of work here. Cabinet Secretary, with your permission, I would want to most sincerely thank the Kenya National Examination Council for the good work that they did. I would want to acknowledge the commitment of the chair of the Kenya National Examination Council, Professor Magoha, for the leadership that he provided to the examination team, so that we are where we are today and being able to release these results, being able to get the credible results that we are seeing. Most sincerely, we thank Professor Magoga as the chair. I also sit in that council, and he has given us quite some good leadership as the chair of council. So with these remarks, CS, with your permission, let me invite Professor Magoga to make some comments. Karibu, Prof.
As a CS Education, my good friend Dr. Fred Matiang'i, my other good friend, the regional commissioner by the name of Marwa, all other representatives of government, my colleagues in the teaching profession, ladies and gentlemen, God is good, and all the time. Thank you very much. Now, let us talk business. I think I am going to pay homage, first of all, to our children, the one me and you produced with our blood. Senor, we produced them, and we have no license to cheat and destroy their futures. So if we look at our consciences privately, we know that something is wrong somewhere. That is why, even though I'm a professor, I could sit down and fill in index numbers for 20,000 students. Ask yourself what we as teachers are doing. Are you listening? So if you are still in denial that there is a problem, then you need to be cancelled, and cancelled seriously. Because we produce children and we destroy them. And I say so, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, because most of those qualities I have today were impacted on me by the teachers in primary and secondary school. Forget about all the universities I've gone to. So now that we agree that there is nobody without a fault, I want to address the people I am going to presume are skeptics, who think that the government and the ministry and NEC are joking. Tuko pamoja? I told you many times before, but I'm very glad that I took it, because what I have learned here in 7 months is not what I learned in the university for all the years. And the reason is very simple. If you accept to be a cleaner of a toilet, I think you should clean that toilet so well that it looks cleaner than any other thing. So if you choose on your own volition to be a teacher, teaching profession, in my view, is the most important profession. Don't come to teach because it is a job, it's just another job. It can't be another job. You understand? And the reason why I said I'm addressing my skeptics is that they are going to say, oh, how come they set this exam? Who set it? How come they have marked it so quickly? Let me teach you. I've been a teacher also for about 38 years. Time is the only thing that you cannot save. And if you think you can save time, you must be stupid. You cannot save time. No, it is true. So if you can do a job in 1 month, tell me why it should take 3 months to do it. Because the extra time we have now, since we are releasing the exam today, the parents, me and you, we shall plan for our children. Is that good or bad? So why should we have more time so that the people in my organization who are used to something small corrupt you even when your child has done well? Can any of you tell me why a child who has gone to school for 12 years should score 2 or 3 or 4 in a subject, in several papers in a subject? If you are a principal and you have the answer, stand up and tell me. That is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. And for me, CS, even though I fully support what Nancy Macharia is talking about in terms of rewarding performance contracts and punishing the crooks, I was taught to always consider a second chance for those who want to have the second chance. Can we stop wasting time? Because personally, for example, I wouldn't want a teacher from my village to be posted in my village, because that teacher will simply not teach. Ataanza kwenda mashambani, ataenda kukamua ng'ombe, alafu atapeleka maziwa kwa cooperative, then she goes for a technical appearance in the school. To the extent that you find I took time to look at the scripts. Mimi siongea bila, I am not briefed. I have not slept for I don't know how many days. And you find the child has nothing to write. So we as teachers, some of us are guilty as charged. Are you one of them? And if you are one of them, it is between you and your God. Can we stop destroying our children? Please. I want to thank the teachers, the majority of the teachers, especially those who came to mark for us. There is honor in working for your children. Who do you think you are marking the exam for? Are you marking it for the government? You are marking it for yourself. It is me and you who have produced those children. So there is honor in marking the exam for your children. And I want to thank those people. I don't know if some of you are here whom I addressed when I was moving around during the marking process. That at my age, I carried 20 cartons in less than an hour. Does it make me less of a professor? So, my brothers and sisters, you are 800 and you have to carry 50 boxes for about 20 meters. And then you say, no, go and hire casuals to come and do it. Are we serious? So I just want to leave you with those serious thoughts and to say that I am not going to release the results, but you will see them. And when you see them, you will understand why I'm talking the way I'm talking. Can we celebrate our children? You will realize for the first time, when we released the primary school examinations, I'm a doctor by training. I don't even know what I'm doing here. But since we released the primary school exams, I haven't had any child committing suicide. Because a child is an innocent angel, as long as you assure that child that what he or she has got belongs to him or her, and you are there. Are you listening? Yes. Rather than giving stupid demands and pushing your children to go and commit suicide. I want to emphasize before I say, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, over 38 years. At the University of Nairobi here, where we teach medicine, we admit 500. And of those 500, 50% of them are fake. Do you understand? Fake because somehow me and you, we have been corrupted. I haven't found a teacher who has come tell me, Professor, Mungu asifiwe lakini mimi nilikuwa namna hiyo. It is all right, as long as you stop doing it. Why should you, if you have an A in mathematics, fail to understand engineering? And after 1 or 2 terms, you must get out and go. And the result we are going to see here today will tell you that we have a problem and that we need you to help us to solve them. Finally, I want to say this, ladies and gentlemen. The letter A is very good. I would have liked to have got many of them, but during my time, I managed 1A. Only kamoja. Do you get the point? And I remember in my class at Strathmore School, the boy who got 4 A's, I remember him, 40 years later. So this nonsense of everybody in the class getting A, please come out of it. Any teacher worth his or her salt should be able to tell the children that are going to get A's, and they are usually not very many. Then there are others who are intelligent, but the point I'm trying to make is that you do not need an A to do anything in your life. If you think so, that you need an A to do anything in your life, then that is the second stupidity you have, and get it out of your system. Once you get over 50% on your own volition without being helped by anything in the subjects that you require to do, you can do anything from engineering to medicine to architecture to law. So I hope that going forward, because the problem me and you have, if by the grace of God I'm still here in a year's time, because I'm much older than all of you, and you don't know God's time, our problem is going to be how to sustain this. You can choose to destroy your country further. I'm a surgeon. Would you like me to open you up and I don't know what to do? Tell me. Would you like me, because if you give a child who doesn't deserve an A, maybe he has a D minus and you give him an A to go to the medical school, and he manages to wangle his way through. Akifungua huko ndani anaona picha tu. Would you like that to happen to you? So let's agree that in order for us to move forward from here, we need your help just the way we got it during the process. Given that there are a few bad eggs, very bad eggs, some of them we know, but we have said since we are teachers, let us see whether they are going to reform. Ndio unaona tunaenda pole pole kidogo. If I can reform 10 head teachers, for example, that is more important for me as a manager than sacking all of them, if they are reformable. But Nancy Macharia, for those who are not reformable, you should feel very encouraged to reward only measurable output. For example, if you find that we are paying a salary, the government of Kenya is paying a salary to a teacher who does not go to class. I have my most honorable members of the union here whom I respect. When I was at the University of Nairobi, I had unions, and I told them on academic matters, that is the road. Go on strike if you want. I think that is the stance we should take with teachers who are not working. The teachers who are not working, Honorable, let us not argue about it. The unions will support you, unless there is one who will say he wants to support a teacher who is not coming to teach. Because unless we remove our clothes and remain naked and discuss this issue the way we are talking about it, then we are not going to move forward. I finally want to also thank other members of government, especially the provincial administration, without which we would not have achieved much, the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of ICT, and end, as I sit down, by saying that there is honor in serving the children. And we have no right, we have absolutely no right to destroy the children of this country, because for us, we are already gone. Why do you want to destroy a child by, you see, if my primary school teacher had given me answers over 50 years ago, how do you think I would be looking at him now? Yet I revere him. I revere Geoffrey Griffin because he gave me facts of life. Alikuwa ananichapa, and then we go and take tea with him and tells me I've killed you because of 1, 2, 3. That is what we must do to our children today. Bwana Cabinet Secretary, today is your day. I think they are waiting for the results. They are not very good results, but I'm not the one to release them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. And as I said, as our chair, he says it as it is. And we like it that way because that is how we achieve results. At this juncture, I would want to most sincerely thank the Cabinet Secretary and appreciate the leadership that he gave us during this exercise and the leadership that he has given us in the processes that we have been going through in the ministry. And I would want to most sincerely, once again, on behalf of my colleagues who are all here, to tell him thank you for the leadership and the work that he has been able to do so that we have arrived today at where we are. CS, it's not, as the professor said, not our day today. It's now my humble duty to invite you to release the results. Karibu waziri.
Thank you very much. So many microphones. I'm trying to figure out how to manage my notes. Let me first of all start by saying this very briefly, and like my good friend Professor Magoa, I belong to the Brief, Direct and Straight School. My brother and my colleague, our Principal Secretary in charge of Basic Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang, my sister and my colleague, our CEO at TSC, Madam Nancy Macharia, my brother and my compatriot in this, Professor Magoa, and the entire council at the Kenya National Examinations Council, Mercy and your staff, and all of you, my colleagues who are here from the Ministry of Education in the field. Mr. Marwa, our regional coordinator here, the County Commissioner here, Mr. Choki, and all of you, my colleagues from the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. And all of you who are here today. I am very grateful for several reasons, and I will be brief because I know what everyone is looking forward to. First of all, I want to very sincerely thank the Lord for the opportunity He has given us to serve our country and to serve our fellow men. The year 2016 has been long and challenging in some cases, but I can tell you as I stand here before you that I have seen the hand of the Lord, and the Lord has led us so well so far. We have taken steps in trying to ensure that we reorganize ourselves and manage the education sector in a much more responsible way. But I want to say this, I sincerely, very sincerely, first of all, as a citizen of this country, even before I speak to you as the Cabinet Secretary in charge of education now, as a citizen of this nation, I am very grateful to our President, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. The President has been so steadfast because all along, he and His Excellency the Deputy President have a very central focus to the education sector of our country. And both the President and Deputy President have consistently pushed us to ensure that we achieve the Jubilee government's plan on education because of the centrality and the importance of education in our country. And so this morning, the President received the results, the KCSE results, and took time to go through the results with us and insist on certain things that we must do to move to the next stage. I can tell you this without fear of contradiction or without a doubt, that there are so many countries that have not made as much progress as we have made in the education of our country, especially because they do not have as much focused and determined leadership from the top, working very hard on the education of their citizens. So we are grateful as a nation, and I think it's important even at this point in time to be sincere and thank God for the blessings that we have. Leaders who are so focused on what we are doing, who are leading from the front, and slowly I can see it, I feel it, I'm very hopeful that we are slowly building a very strong partnership and coalition in the education sector that is going to lead us claiming our rightful place as the leaders in education, not just in Africa, but in the world. I want to thank all of you, my colleagues, who are here from the Ministry of Education, with whom we have worked every step of the way to ensure that we do the right thing. I want to thank the teachers who are here. I will be speaking shortly about the results, and I will be honest with you and very candid about these things. When we released the results last time in early this year, it was very sad. 5,100 of our children in secondary schools could not get their results on account of our own recklessness and irresponsibility as adults. And we agreed at that time that it's not going to happen again. And so the results we release today will demonstrate to you the huge strides that we have taken in reforming the education sector of our country. And I would like to urge all of us to remain on this trajectory. We must move forward this way. We are not going to slide back, because this is the only way we will bring up a generation, a group of young people who are credible, who are ready and able to serve their country. And we must be honest people. We must live truthfully. We have made certain dangerous mistakes in the past. It is time that we corrected those mistakes. So, I am one step away from the actual results, and this is therefore what I want to say. We've gone through a successful year in the basic education sector, completed our 2 major examinations, and with the release of KCSE today, we have completed the 2 major examination results that we need to have. I want my colleagues who are here in the education sector to get in loud and clear. This is the way we are going to operate. The responsibility with which we have worked before, where we mark exams, or sometimes we keep them for a month or 2 to negotiate and engage in all manner of monkey business, that will not happen again. This is how we are going to operate before. We examine our children, we give them the results within a month. It's not rocket science. And people ask me what we have done. This is what we did this year. We dismantled all marking centers out of Nairobi and put all our 25 marking centers within Nairobi to make it easier for us to supervise and monitor them. We carefully selected a huge number of people. In fact, you would be surprised to know that this year we contracted a total of 74,810 professionals to work with us in managing the examination, KCSE examination. And then we installed an ICT center in every marking center, which means we were able to stream the grades in real time. Every day, whatever was marked, we were able to stream it to a central server system. And it means that when the last marker puts their pen down, you can actually get your results. And technology is here. It's important that we embrace technology and use technology to move forward. I can vouch for these results. They are accurate, they are credible, they will give you an accurate picture of how our children performed in school. So here is point number 1. We actually did not observe or notice any case of irregularities in the KCSE examination. So, our KCSE candidates will get their results. No result has been cancelled. But look, we have been firm and strict in the manner in which we have marked, and I am proud and really grateful to the teachers and the examiners that we had in the centers. A huge number of these 74,810 professionals are trained teachers. Many of them are examiners who are examining various subjects. Many of them chief examiners, very experienced people. We went back and forth. And we registered credible results. But it is a fact, as my colleagues have said before me, that we have a lot of work that we need to do. We have a lot of work we need to do to encourage some of our colleagues to do the right thing. And I'm not going to mince my words about this. There is a level of professional recklessness among some of our colleagues, irresponsibility, dereliction of duty, and failure with which we cannot live. Time is here, and I support the Teacher Service Commission 100% in all the decisions that the TSC is going to take. You have 100% backing from all of us, because 8 or 9 out of 10 teachers in the country are very serious people, ready and committed to do their work. Why should we allow 1 out of 10 people to hurt the reputation of a noble profession? So let's go forth, act firmly and swiftly, and proceed with whatever disciplinary action is necessary so that we rid the profession of those who are hurting our reputation once and for all. There are those teachers who are involved in attempted malpractice during the examination period. We've handed reports with the TSC already, and TSC will proceed with the necessary disciplinary action as they please, because we cannot interfere with them as ministry, because we trust them and they're protected by law to do what they need to do, but we encourage them and we assure them they have our support in taking firm action about this. Even during the marking, by the way, I have to be honest with you and tell you, we noticed misbehavior in about 3 or 4 markers, teachers. We removed them from the marking centers immediately. We have surrendered their details to TSC to deal with them, to move forward. That is the way we are going to go. We will not accept irresponsibility, especially where it involves our children. We cannot. So it's time that we all behave responsibly. And I agree with my sister, Nancy Macharia. It's time for accountability. I am a public servant. The people of Kenya expect service from me. And so they expect services from my other colleagues. So ask us questions. We should all be ready to answer questions you ask us, because you pay us every month to work for you. And that should also apply to my colleagues in the teaching profession. And I dare say, the PS is here, that should also apply to our colleagues from the Ministry of Education. I am the first one to admit we have challenges with supervision on the ground. Our education officers, our quality assurance officers, there is room for improvement. And commencing next year, we will adopt a slightly higher gear in focusing on this. Where accountability is necessary, we will demand it. Where we feel we are not getting the services we should, we will act in the best interest of our children. We cannot go back on this. We cannot afford to make a mistake where it involves the lives of our children. So, good people. So, here are the results. And I want you to listen to me very carefully. And I have asked my colleagues from the Kenya National Examinations Council to make everything available to you. The sense that it is critical that you get all the data from the examination results. Now, we had, of the 577 or so candidates who wrote the exam, only 15.41%, or 88,929, scored between A and C+, which means meet the result. And that is about 15.4%. We had a total of 141 straight A's, 4,645 A minuses, 10,975 B pluses. So in total, as I said, the students who scored between A and C plus are 88,929. If you compare that with last year, the 141 students who scored a straight A are fewer than some schools registered last year. There are schools that registered 202 straight A's. This year, they couldn't produce 10. And you know them. There are schools that registered 196 straight A's. They couldn't actually produce 15 this year. We have been firm and clear in the manner in which we have examined and analyzed the results. You will see the results when they are uploaded completely, and you will see one thing. It is a true and credible reflection of who our children are and how they scored, without leakage, without any help, without manipulation and massaging of the figures. I want to point out one thing. Two schools that I need to point out. The media will get the whole report and they will go down the report and see this. But I want to single out, and my colleagues allowed me to do this, to single out two schools in the country. These two schools have stood out for one reason. Even last year and the years before, I was the Minister for Education, but my colleagues tell me that you could tell from the last 2 years that they always posted honest and credible results. And you know what? This year you can see a consistent growth and a consistent improvement in their performance. Alliance Girls High School, for example, which has remained consistent in the number of high scores that they have posted. And you can tell from the analysis that they have always maintained credible results and credible performance. Kenya High School, for example, where you can see if last year they posted 20 A's, they are posting 21 A's this year. And you can see clearly it's a consistent improvement. Some private schools posted 212 A's last year, and this year they cannot manage 20. One of those schools actually that posted 212 A's last year, this year they managed 2 A's on that point. And so I want you good people to understand this. And the result is going to be uploaded by the time I'm done with my remarks. You can send your index number to the short code 22252, get your results. You will notice one thing. It's up to us. You are the judge. There's a way we cannot live. And for those of you, particularly those of you from the fourth estate, you need to investigate what we have been doing. How we have been producing students with A who cannot survive a university program. How our children have been getting out of schools with A's and they cannot complete 1 year in the university. And some of these children are coming forward and now confessing, oh, during my time we were woken up at 4 a.m. in the morning and shown the exam. And now I'm not able to proceed. I agree with Professor Magwa. We cannot destroy our children ourselves by lying to them and cheating to them and doing all those things that we know we have been doing. This year, there was no cheating, there was no monkey business. We have a clear, clean result. And it can now show you where we are as a country and where we should go. My parting words are these. We need to do more. In terms of gender, for example, of the top 20 students in the country, 16 are girls. The top 20 students, 16 are girls, only 4 are boys. Means there's something we need to do. We have spent so much time looking at these results. We have spent so much time looking at these results. We have analyzed them. I have instructed, and I would like to instruct the KNEC when we are here, that the report to the Teacher Service Commission on the performance should be handed to them within the next 30 days so that TSC can proceed now to call upon accountability on those that they need to demand it from. Because we have to live a honest life and we all have to face our realities, as it were. So I would like to assure you, by the grace of God, on behalf of our hard-working President and Deputy President, that we are on a reform trajectory and we will continue this way. We are not going back. 2, you will notice that this year, from the students who have scored between A and C+, 8,000 of them, they will all actually be absorbed in the university because we have that kind of capacity. Which means that had we stayed on that trajectory and grown our university programs and our university capacities gradually, we will not be having some of the challenges we have in the university sector in the country today. In other words, my good friends and fellow Kenyans, if you were to be analytical, the effect of some of the silly things we have done in the past can be felt far and wide, even in some of the things that are happening in universities today. So time is here for us to reform. Change we must, reform we must. We will make decisions. I've said before, some of them are going to be painful, but I assure you they will be made. We have to make them because we cannot continue this way. We must return our country to where it belongs, and we must walk away from some of the things we have done in the past. So, lastly, I thank all my colleagues. Thank you, NEC, for a job well done, Professor Magwa. None of us really has had any break, to write home about. And this is very nice. We worked so hard through the Christmas break up to this time to make sure that we deliver the results as we promised and as we expected by the people of Kenya and as we expected by our leaders. We are happy that we are ending the year with our work complete and our assignment done. Time is here now for us to begin the next cycle, as it were. I thank my colleague, the PS, and our other colleague, PSS, Professor Suda and Dr. Mwisi, who are not here with us, and my colleagues from the ministry who are here. We will continue on this pace. And we have just been instructed this morning by the President on 2 things that are critical with which I want to end. 1, that we must now work on a way of institutionalizing these reforms so that this becomes our way of life in the country. And we will do it. 2, because we have had several challenges in terms of our managing of educational data, we are now going to insist that we cease using index numbers. We have been directed now that with effect from 2017, the President has directed us to ensure that every child in school in Kenya is given a student registration number that they will carry throughout their life in the education system. So, Professor Magwa, we were together in that meeting. You understood the boss right clearly what he said. We are not going to register anybody with index numbers next year. Both Standard 8 and Form 4 will give you student registration numbers. That's what you're going to use when you go to university. That's what you're going to use as you move along, so that we can identify our children all along. We have accurate data on our children as we move along and track their progress. So, we will proceed with the rest of the analysis and the discussions as we go along. It's been a year of challenge, but we can't thank the Lord enough for the opportunity to serve. I am a proud Kenyan and a happy Kenyan today, and I wish you all the best. Happy New Year, and may God bless you indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would want at this juncture to thank the Cabinet Secretary for having released the results for 2016. And with the release of the results, I would want to thank all of us for the questions that we have had. I know it's been very hot inside here. Once again, thank you very much. And as we close, I would want to wish all of us on behalf of our ministry that you have a prosperous year 2017. And with those comments, I think now I will invite the County Commissioner to give us the closing remarks, and thereafter close the meeting. Thank you very much. Karibu Bwana Commissioner.
We can have a closing prayer. Thereafter, we can have the choir to continue entertaining us. Pastor Somboko. The choir, are you ready?
All right, so there are the results just announced by the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Some pretty interesting results that are coming out from him there. I'm sure we'll get some of the numbers on screen for you. But let's have a discussion now with Jonathan Basaya, who's an education researcher and director at Discovery Learning Alliance. First of all, your reaction to some of the numbers that we have heard this afternoon.
It's a shocker to the system.
Yeah.
And if you remember what the Cabinet Secretary said in February this year, when he was releasing the KCSE results, he cancelled 5,101 results for candidates.
Yeah.
And he promised Kenyans one thing, that it will not happen again in his watch. And this year, true to his word, we do not have a single cancellation.
A single cancellation. He talks about this being a true, credible reflection of who our students are and how they scored. He's given some rather interesting numbers about some schools. One exam center that had 202 straight A's can't even score 10 straight A's this year. And surely the number of A's has drastically reduced. 141 out of 577,000 candidates. What's your reaction to this?
You know, we were living in false paradise as a country, because in any education system, the performance is usually a normal distribution. We usually have a 5 to 10% on the left and another 5 to 10% on the right. And that's what they call the normal distribution. That you have high achievers and the people who are below average. But the ordinary performance is that you will get a band of candidates who are not far from each other.
Okay.
But we had, in 2015, schools that registered 99.9% straight passes.
Right.
It's not possible. So you get admitted into medicine and technology course, but you cannot sustain it. The disparity we are having, especially for girls who get into university, most of them are admitted into what we call prestigious courses, but they cannot hack it because the system was fraudulent. So they did not merit to get to where they got. But one thing that is worth of notice is that we are moving closer to getting gender parity.
Yes.
Because this year, 47% of the total candidature were girls, 53% were boys.
Right.
But interestingly, he mentions that 16 out of 20 top students in this exam are girls.
There you go.
Now, that has something. Since the mid-90s, we've invested very heavily on the girl child. It's beginning to bear fruit. We are beginning to see it. It is working. But on the flip side, the boy child is being left out.
Okay.
So it means that the agenda for investment in 2017 going ahead is that we need to look at the boy child.
Okay, and see what is happening. I think we've also gotten quite a bit of reaction regarding that on social media. The same thing, what's happening with the boys. And it's also just talking about this, interestingly, also in the way that the exams were marked and the results transmitted. He talked about, ICT centers, and he said this was the interesting thing, that the minute the marker put their pen down, those results were transmitted to headquarters, and that was the end of that. Pretty significant, I think, in terms of curbing the cheating, because once you were done, the results were in, and then we have the results released exactly a month after the
And for you
exam.
to understand why the Cabinet Secretary and the Chair of the Examination Council took that approach was that in the existing strategic plan for the Kenya National Examination Council, they were actually citing technology as a challenge.
Right. He says now they've got the technology.
So, the previous chair, will say that, we have a problem because mobile phones are being used to cheat. But what the Cabinet Secretary has done in coordinating the whole process is to look at technology as an opportunity.
Right.
What can technology do
Right.
to reduce the fraudulence that was in the system? But there is one thing he has done. What Matiang'i has done is to reduce what I'll call the touch points. The number of people involved in managing the exam has reduced, because what was happening previously was that the examination would be stored at a police station. A head teacher would go in with the DEO and sign for it and carry it to a school or the supervisor. So during that interlude, they would be left to their own devices. What they've done, just make it foolproof. Any person who touches the exam, the responsibility begins and ends with them.
Right.
So at that point. So before the head teacher gets the exam, the whole thing was with the sub-county director of education and the sub-county commissioner. They hand it to the head teacher would hand it to the invigilator at the exam center. When it's with the invigilator, the student had to check that this is it.
Right. I would like you to hold your thought on that one. Jonathan Messiah, who's with me here, Director, Discovery Learning Alliance. I want to take you back to Shimolatewa High School, where the Cabinet Secretary is addressing the press.
A reasonable target with the teachers that were marking, and we ensured that we marked within that target and saved some days. I can tell you that some subjects were marked in under 1 week. You understand? So if you set yourself a reasonable target and you apply yourself to that target, then you achieve the target. But I think the way forward is not to look at the history, but to look at what we are going to do to cure the problem.
That was Professor Magoha there from the National Examination Council. That's a presser that they're addressing outside the hall at Shimolatewa High School in Mombasa, where they've just released the results. And still here with Jonathan Messiah, I hope you can remember your train of thought. You were talking about, the chain of custody of the exam to ensure, that no loopholes are there.
Yeah, previously the history that Professor Magoha is talking about was such that too many people handled the exam at any one point, and that is where the leakage would happen. There was a process they used to call moderation, so that after the marking is done, some independent examiners will look at it and see if the examiner did the right thing.
Okay.
What they've done, eliminate that process, then prepare the examiner so that they do a thorough job that nobody else needs to check on it. So you eliminate the number of people who are handling the results, but then introduce technology that once the examiner has finished marking, it is out of their control. It goes into a central server. Now, look at it, that he says Alliance and Kenya High.
Yeah, he singled them out.
Had 20 A's, they now have registered 21 A's. Just an improvement by 1.
Yeah.
It is consistent, and that is normal. But what we were registering, excuse me, in 2015 was untenable. You cannot have 300 candidates and 290
or something,
are scoring S.
Right, okay. So calling it a true and credible reflection of where we are as a country. But he also said that the system is not perfect. He said, he talked about some improvements they want to make in the coming year. He talked about challenges with supervision, talking about, instituting more accountability. What do you think about that? Where do you see some of the areas to improve so that we can have an even better one? I know right now Kenyans can't see anything better than what we have. 0 exam irregularities for both KCP and KCSE. But, where do you see some of the areas for improvement in the coming years?
The areas for improvement are in the field, because as policy at the headquarter level in Jogo House, we have very good policies. And Kenya is lauded for that across the globe. But how to match policy and practice, that is where our undoing lies. So the quality assurance directorate at the ministry, which is now changing to the National Council for Quality and Standards needs to up its game. The teacher unions need to accept that reward is pegged on performance. They need to embrace performance contracting. It is a fact of life. They're not going to run away from it. Number 3, we need to ensure that our teachers are in school and doing what they are supposed to be doing. Because a World Bank study in 2013 indicates that up to 40% of our teachers are in school but not in class. Some of them get into class and get the class prefect and the monitor to dictate notes to the others. They are seated, others seated under a mango tree repairing their bicycle and such stuff.
What Magoha was talking about in terms of deployment of teachers within their home area and within their county and perhaps doing that. But, you know, we've seen quite a bit of improvement with this. But then now we're going into ranking in 2017. It is now law, courtesy of Parliament that passed this in August of this year. And we were speaking to our Frank Otieno a little earlier, who says this is at odds with the curriculum review. So where do you see ranking fitting into this system next year, where we've even removed index numbers, which is part of the ranking, isn't it? That mock exam in second term that determines your index number.
That is the problem with the education system in Kenya, that we are incremental and not systematic. That the left hand does not see what the right hand is doing. So the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development is set to change what is examined and the content that our learners are going to be subjected to. Now, in doing this, they're saying that if you are good outside the classroom, what are the attributes that you have? Can they be scored? Put that together with an examination, and then we get what will be the composite report about you.
So how would ranking then fit into that?
Now, that is the problem. Because when that is happening, the Education Committee in Parliament is not engaged consistently with the other stakeholders to see how this works. The pressure for ranking is not from the public schools, it's from the private schools. It is a marketing gimmick because they know if we had 50 candidates, all of them scored A, we're going to print it in the newspapers all over.
And you see the billboards everywhere.
So we are at odds, but I'm sure now with the type of leadership we have, Professor Magoha and
Dr. Matiang'i,
that can be rationalized.
Okay, I'd like us,
he has to move now beyond where he is, because the rot in the education sector in Kenya lies in post-secondary education.
All right, and we'll take a look at some of those comparisons, the numbers of A's and the transition system, but that is also an issue of concern, transition rates from one level of education to another. And now we're looking at these 88,929 who got between clean A and a C+, who will, you know, be absorbed into public universities. But then again, there's also been talk about public universities and the state of higher education in our country, which Dr. Matiang'i has called, and I quote, a painful process. I will get to that question with you in a moment as to just what you think needs to happen in the stage to come for these candidates. But take a look at these numbers that are on our super wall with me. Jonathan and our viewers can join us as well. That number that's just been released right now by the Cabinet Secretary, 88,929, scoring between an A and a C+, essentially a C+ and above. That is a figure that's about 15% of the total number of candidates that sat this year. Now compare this with the previous years, C+ and above. These are the numbers you were talking about, that spread. 165,766 in 2015, getting a C+ and above and thereby qualifying for university. And in 2014, number was slightly lower, but just as high, 149,717. Tell us again what you were saying about this spread and whether this makes sense.
The normal distribution, the way it is in statistics, is that between 5 and 10% will be super achievers in any arrangement. Then you'll have another 5 to 10% that will be below average. But then our abilities are usually not far from each other under the same circumstances. But what you will notice is this. Look at the growth of the parallel system in our higher education. It tells you that somebody would steal the exam, somebody would fail to honestly work hard, but then end up taking the same course as the son or daughter of a peasant farmer who put in their blood to qualify to join university. This is what is likely going to be rectified if we maintain this strategy. Because the growth of our transition from secondary to higher education was higher than the growth of the sector that needed to admit them.
I see. Yeah. So if you take a look at these numbers once again, those who scored a straight A, these are the results for 2016, 141, and we had 4,645 getting an A minus, just breaking down those numbers further, and 10,975 getting a B plus. Obviously, these numbers are quite different from the previous years. I hope we can get a comparison on our screens from 2015 and 2014 as to this breakdown as well. But let me ask this rather simplistic question. So if in previous years, you know, we've been getting 160,000 people getting straight A's, and now shouldn't we, and this is rather simplistic, so let me put that out there. Shouldn't we then have more doctors, engineers, lawyers? You get what I mean? Like all of these 165,000 who get straight A's, they're all absorbed into those high-end courses, actuarial science, you name it. Is there that tally? I think that's what you were saying, how many of them get in there and can't hack the system?
You cannot, because when you fraudulently get into a system, it is not you. And the beauty of it is this, that Matiang'i, since getting into the ministry, has decided purposefully to pursue the adults who are facilitating the fraud in the system. Previously, the 5,101 candidates who lost their results last year were innocent, because I want to tell you, no child can facilitate consistent cheating in an exam without the watch of an adult. And that is why the teacher unions were not comfortable with Matiang'i when he came in and said, head teachers shall be responsible for the examination centers in which they are they're in charge.
Okay. So this is all interesting. I also want to talk about the index number issue with effect from 2017, that will now be, that was also part of it. Remember the mock exam that was extremely difficult? Okay, I see now we have some more statistics on our Super Wall. Let's take a look at that before we move on. So the number of A's in this year, 141. Interesting, isn't it? 2015, 2,636. I'm really tempted to do some mathematics there with percentages of those. And in 2014, it's 3,073. Wow. In 2014, it was much more. 2015, much less. And look at 2016. That's a drastic drop. I mean...
And you know, as you were saying previously, if all the guys who scored A in 2014 and 2015 got admitted to study medicine, surgery, and such things, we would be having enough of these top-end professionals to resolve some of the problems we're having. But the thing is, they were assisted to obtain a mark that was not them. So you realize that for you to study a technology course of medicine, you need 5-6 years in school. So most of them are not able to even complete 50% of that time. So by the time they get into second year, it is so complex, they don't comprehend anything, they drop off.
Start to change courses.
So they start changing. Some of them even get to fourth year and they opt to get a diploma in that field and just go away because it's too tough for them to manage.
I mean, what you're describing are some scenes that were reminiscent even when we were in university, so some interesting things. So while we're talking about the number of A's, we want to focus on a school that was top last year and got quite a number of A's. Doesn't seem to feature anywhere this year. Kabarak High School is where our Victor Ogale is right now. Victor, so last year, quite a number of A's, some interesting results that were posted there by Kabarak High School. What are their expectations this year after hearing what the Cabinet Secretary had to say just a short while ago?
Well, Yvonne, what is in each and everyone's mouth, or rather the impending issue here, is the number of A's, the figure 141. Perhaps that was the figure that was was scored by one school in last year's exams, but this year we have the number of A's nationally at 141. So many school administrators, many parents, many teachers will be asking so many questions. What happened to what was the precedence previously? And we managed to be here early enough at the Moi High School, Kabarak. We sat with the teachers, mingled with them even before the announcement of the 2016 KCSE examinations were announced officially. And now what is happening, the teachers are sending the short message and with the results and the index numbers of the students, perhaps just to know who scored what grade and who, so that they can at least at the end of the day find their final tally and know how their school fared, Yvonne.
All right, specific reactions from the management of the school there. I imagine a dampened mood. I mean, I think only 2 schools have been cited for consistency in performance. That's Alliance Girls and Kenya High, both of which are girls' schools. But, you know, what's the atmosphere like there? It might have been different based on the results that may have been expected.
Well, Kabarak is taking everything positive, and as I've told you, the management cannot comment as at now, and we are waiting when they get the final results, everything after sending the short message service. That is when they say they're going to give us a statement. But as at now, things are just the way they are. They are sending the short message service just to get the results one by one. I don't know if the cameraman can at least get what the teachers are doing here inside the staff room, and perhaps just to show the viewers a glimpse of what is happening here in Kabarak.
All right, thank you, Victor. That doesn't look jubilant at all. Looks more pensive, apprehensive. And as you said, things are just the way they are. Quite clearly, everybody texting into that. Victor Gale, thank you. As soon as you get the statement from the management of the school, we will come right back to you to get some sort of reaction from them there. So take a look at that reaction. That's, that tells you something.
Yeah, it tells you something that... the Cabinet Secretary mentioned something, that change we must, reform we must, even if it's painful. And you can see the pain at Moi High School, Kabrak, because ordinarily they will already be celebrating.
Last year, you would see
they will already be celebrating.
The pictures we're used to with carrying teachers.
But now, nobody knows what is in store for them, so they just have to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. What we do know is what we were talking about a little earlier, is that index numbers have now been abolished, if you like, and all students will now get a registration number, which I found interesting when the Cabinet Secretary said, we'll track you all the way from primary school. Do you think this is also an interesting way of tracking a specific student's performance, you know, likes, dislikes, you know, just gathering as much data as you can on a student? This is also some more reforms we're seeing in the coming year.
Yep, that will do 3 things, Yvonne. One is that the ministry invests in a child to join school.
Right.
But we do not have credible information on the child in school and the child out of school. So today, you will be at KTN, you will receive your capitation grant from the Ministry of Education. Tomorrow, you move to Mombasa Road and you are counted as a different student. So now, if you have a unique identifier, that data will move with you, so that if you are to transfer school, if you are to move from one level to another, the ministry can say with certainty that this is the same learner. One of the lowest points in the management of the FPE grant under the Ministry of Education is the collusion and the fraud that is facilitated by the head teachers, because they know that they must make returns to the Ministry of Education at a particular point for purposes of receiving money. So some of the data is altered so that they receive more cash. But with this unique identifier, the same child who is in Nairobi and transfers to Mombasa is still the same child and will receive the same grant. Number 2 is that the attributes of this child can be collected over the period they are within the education system, and a report or an analysis can be made of who this person is. But as it is now, you can only show your report card from an individual school. You can only show an examination result that summarizes who you are when you sat for that exam for only 2 hours after spending 16 years in school. So it is not a true reflection of the personality of the individual who's being examined.
And it's also a way of tracking, like you say, each child, there's the per capita spend on a child throughout the education system. Wouldn't it also be a way to track, so value for money?
Yes.
If we have spent, what's the per capita per child? Maybe 1,200, it's an arbitrary figure. And you can say this amount of money has given us this value out of this student.
Let me tell you, if you cornered the cabinet secretary now and asked the cabinet secretary, what does it cost to take a child through the education system in Kenya? He will not tell you. He does not have that information. So this is the beginning of trying to streamline the system so that we can put money into a system and get value out of it.
Right.
So we say we invested $1, this is what we are getting out of you. Instead of, these marketing showbiz we get into, some courses at the university are hyped.
Yeah.
So everybody runs in, you pay an arm and a leg, then you come out here and then you say there are no jobs. Nobody can, no university should be training people to come and work at KTN. They should be training you to be a global citizen who can fit anywhere. So it's not about this market. You are a citizen of this world.
Right.
If there are no jobs in Kenya, why can't you find them wherever they are? So we should not limit our system to talk about what we have within the confines of our boundaries. Let us liberate our children so that they become citizens of the world who can be functional wherever they find themselves. Let them create jobs. Let them see opportunity where other people are seeing challenges.
Okay, all right. So let's focus on one of those schools now that has been cited this afternoon for consistency, and that is Alliance Girls High School. And Caroline B. is at the Alliance Girls High School and joins me live from there now. Caroline, good news for Alliance in the somewhat interesting results, shall we say, that have been released. What's the atmosphere? What's the school management saying about the results today? They must be happy, we imagine.
Well, very true, Yvonne, about the consistency of performance that has just been announced by the CS Matiang'i. But, well, at Alliance High School, there's no sign of a principal or teachers or any administration official here. As you can see, actually, behind me, the school is very empty. There's no sign, no student has yet arrived here. No teacher is also here. We are currently at the gate, still trying to get permission to get inside the school and maybe much later be able to speak to part of the administration, could be one of the teachers, just to speak on the good performance that had been talked about by the Cabinet Secretary, Vaughan.
Well, Caroline, it would appear they were taken by surprise, as was the rest of the country with this. I mean, we all knew it was going to be by the end of the year, but seems like, they were not expecting this as well.
Very true. Actually, none of them was expecting it, and given up, just looking at how the school currently is deserted, there's no one. It means that most of them were not expecting the results to be announced at such a time as the year comes to a close. Different from the other years where it had been released, 1 year after or just a few months after the examinations had been done. But the fact that there's no administration official here, no teacher, no principal, it is a sign that, they were caught by surprise. And well, maybe tomorrow we shall be able to speak to them once they come from their holidays and get to know about what they think about the performance. But as of now, the school gate is closed. Yvonne?
All right, thanks very much for that, Caroline B. It's not every day that a school is singled out, especially at a time when there is no ranking of schools and top students. So we hope to hear their reaction to that, being singled out for consistency in good performance over the last 2 years. This is just to remind you, by the way, that should you be looking for your results, you can send your index number or your child's index number to the number 22252. To get your results, once again, send your index number to the SMS number 22252 to get your results, which is what we're seeing a lot happening. The Cabinet Secretary also promised that they will now be uploaded on the website immediately he was done with his speech. And I'm still here with Jonathan Masai from Discovery Learning Alliance. So what do we look forward to in 2017? There's the curriculum review that is taking place at the Institute for Curriculum Development. We've talked about the ranking that is happening that may be at odds. And I spoke to the Cabinet Secretary about ranking as well. He says he's going to consult quite a bit to see how it can be done, because it is now law. It's not something we can run away from unless, something else happens to amend that. But what do you look forward to? We've seen these changes with the index number. But what can we expect now in 2017, do you think?
From where I sit, I'm looking at the Cabinet Secretary coming down hard on the Commission for Higher Education, on how they manage the accreditation process for institutions of higher learning for purposes of quality control. Number two, there are also changes that are happening at the Ministry of Education. You may have noticed silently with the exit of the immediate former Education Secretary that there is no Education Secretary who's the principal advisor to the Principal Secretary.
Yes.
There is now what they call the Director General.
Yeah.
So the Director General will be managing all the other directors. But the single most important change at the ministry is the creation of the Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council that is supposed to coordinate quality across the board within the education sector, working very closely with the National Education Board, which is also under Constitution. But one thing that the Cabinet Secretary has also done is managing the parent associations. You may notice that Musa Undunda is no longer on the radar because he had been the chair for the parent association for over 2 decades. So people are beginning to ask, is he a parent forever? And are elections held? So that process has organically been managed from the grassroots. They now have what many players in the sector are saying is a credible association with the bylaws that manage it. But going forward is how do we manage the momentum that the CS has come into the sector with?
And I'd like
how
you
do we institutionalize that?
Exactly. And I'd like you to hold it there, because that will be my next question to you. How do we move this forward and make sure that this becomes the norm rather than the exception? Should Matiang'i move to another ministry? I mean, I think there's a lot of high expectation from him regarding the changes he has made. We will come back to that and see what are some of those lasting changes that are there that will outlive this Cabinet Secretary. But want to get some more reactions now from across the country. We've taken you to Alliance High School. We've been at Kabarak High School. Let's now go to Nyeri and speak to our Carol Nderi, who's there, to just talk about some of the reactions that we're seeing from that part of the country. Carol, good afternoon. What's everybody saying in Nyeri County? Interesting results that are coming out for the first time in history, I might add.
Good afternoon, Yvonne. Of course, interesting turn of events this afternoon. Kenyans caught by surprise again by the Education CS Fred Matiang'i. And of course, that is what is on everybody's lips right now. Discussions about the just released KCSE results. And well, top 20 students, 16 are girls, very interesting there. Also no cancellations this year, with the CS saying that he can vouch for those results, that they are credible, that they did stop at all measures to ensure that there was no cheating, and that the students did actually get the results that they deserved. And to give us an insight into this, the results just released, we are joined by the NAT Secretary General, Nyeri Branch, Mutahi Kahiga, renowned educationist in this part of the country, with very interesting views regarding the matter. Thank you very much, Bwana Mutahi, for joining us live on KTN News. What do you have to say about the just released KCSE exam results?
Thank you very much, Caro. I would want to begin by saying we really appreciate the good work that has been done by CS Matiang'i maybe to appreciate the teachers, the examiners that have really conducted a very credible exam and the marking, and really to tell Kenyans to appreciate that this is the true Kenya. I will not stop, neither will I fail to congratulate the girls who are in the top 20, and this gives credibility to what I have been saying all the time, that the boy child has been left behind. In an ideal Kenya, in an ideal situation, the boy child needs some affirmative
yes,
action.
but there's change of dynamics, but that has largely been an issue raised here in central Kenya, that it is the boy child who's forgotten as opposed to other parts of the country. But now we are seeing that then it is everywhere in the country that the narrative, the boy child, has been forgotten. Is that so? Everywhere in the country?
I think so. We have had so much hype on the girl child that we have forgotten that the boy, and I keep reminding the mothers to raise good husbands, because those girls might end up having
Interesting. And also, Bwana Mutahi, what he has said that in previous years we have had schools registering high number of A's, 200 A's, 190 something A's, and so on, over 100 A's, but this time barely making it to 15 or 10 A's. Quite interesting. What might have happened? What do you think has happened?
I find it very difficult and very hard for me as an educationist to understand how you move from 212 to 2. It doesn't work that way. If the dynamics, whichever they are, and then this would say, okay, someone had told me that maybe the boys panicked, the girls panicked, or something, the candidates panicked.
Does that really explain the vast?
It doesn't really, but let's say this. I want us to focus on this year's results. Let's forget the bygones. Because if we go back there, we'll end up now having a blame game that won't help this country. But I think I would want to support CS Matiang'i and say that he should not stop at this. He should go on to ensure that the entire education system has credibility, starting from Jogoo House all the way down. And really, we must congratulate and appreciate the president, who has said now that we were going to give numbers, admission numbers that will be carried all along the education system. I think this one will help us monitor how a student has been performing right from the time they enter school and right until they get to university. On the 141 A's, I think that's Kenya. Education should be bottlenecked, because only the very best get to the very top. And for us, let us agree, that is the correct picture of Kenya. That is us. The rest was just cock and bull. And I think it's time we now moved to other sectors. Education is moving on well. We appreciate that CS Matiang'i has become a breath of fresh air. I know a few people are complaining here and there, but sometimes change has to come with such.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Bwana Mutahi, for your comments. We've been talking to the NAT Secretary General Nyeri Branch, Mutahi Kahiga, and his insight on the just released KCSE results, and asking and urging the CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, not to stop there, together with the others at the helm, Professor Magoha, and all those who've been tasked and mandated with that very crucial role of ensuring that all is well, that everything is credible, that all is done right and by the book, that continues. And of course, we are keeping tabs for you here from Nyeri County and the larger central Kenya to tell you about the reactions and just what people are saying about these released exam results. Yvonne.
Thank you, Carol Nderi. Reactions there from the teachers' unions. We were just talking about that with Jonathan Wasaya, about how they need to be co-opted into this, or co-opt themselves, if you like. They are indeed part of this process. And we did see the teachers' unions and the ministry at odds. Remember, with all the arson that we saw in the second semester, the second term of the school calendar. Before we get your closing remarks on the lasting changes, the importance of getting the teachers' unions on board, they have really been at odds with the ministry this year. How important is it for them to now start working together in the education system?
It is important because the teacher unions in the history of Kenya have been talking about bread and butter issues. Nobody has engaged them seriously and consistently on quality matters. But I think what the cabinet secretary is doing now is to shift from bread and butter to quality. And this, I think, is a win that the sector is getting after the collective bargaining agreement was arrived at, so that you put that on the side because it will last for 5 years,
Right.
then deal
Now
with the
focus
issues
on-
that affect every household. But then the people who are working with the cabinet secretary, they just need to up their game. It is ridiculous, Yvonne, that the cabinet secretary gets into a county and then exposes something, and the county director, the sub-county director, the deputy county director are there, and they are also getting surprised the same way the cabinet secretary gets surprised when that is their working station. So what have they been doing all along? Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about those lasting changes now, and what we hope to see that outlasts you know, the cabinet secretary here. We've seen those sort of raids or impromptu visits to schools that some said, okay, it's Magufuli style and that sort of thing. We've seen in the Matatu sector the Michuki rules that are no more now that, you know, when he left the ministry and now is sadly not with us anymore. But what are those things that then happen that should Matiang'i leave the ministry today, for whatever reason, if he gets redeployed, that we can now say we're on a different trajectory, a different path with education in the system, in the country?
Yeah, the biggest thing within the public service in Kenya is anchoring reward to performance, and not just any form of performance, but quality performance. What has been happening is that many people get into the public service in Kenya to pass time. So if you have a parallel business you want to start, then you join the public service because you will hang your coat and then you go run your matatu and then earn a salary. But what the cabinet secretary is doing is keeping people on their toes. But we have seen this. We saw it with the late Honorable Karisa Maitha when he was the Minister of Local Government. We saw it with Michuki. We are now seeing it with Matiang'i. And let me tell you, if the president emerges from his holiday and then has a cabinet reshuffle and pushes Matiang'i to a new ministry, we then are going to get into, the sector will get into disarray, because there is one thing that he has done consistently. He accepts that there is something wrong in the sector.
Right.
Then he moves right on to act on that which he thinks is wrong. If you look at it previously, the chair of the examination council and the previous cabinet secretary would deny. When the media is showing them that this is the paper that will be sat for tomorrow, we have it. They say, no, that is fake, no leakage, the examination is still intact. We will, so Matiang'i,
accepting there is a problem.
Accepting and then acting on that which you think is wrong is the biggest gain the sector has had.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much for that. Jonathan Masai, who's an education researcher and director at Discovery Learning Alliance, is a country project director. Thank you for your time, and we understand the sacrifice you had to make to be with us here today. So let me recap just very quickly, because it's past 4 o'clock and I want to hand over to my colleague Zubeida Kome, who's with us. Let me just do a very quick recap. 88,929 gotten a C+ and above, 141 straight A's, 4,645 A-, 10,975 scored a B+. Alliance Girls and Kenya High both singled out for consistency in good performance in results that are described by the Cabinet Secretary as a true, credible reflection of who our students are and how they scored. Interesting results that are coming out there, with no exam irregularities recorded this year as compared to 5,101 from last year. We saw instant electronic transmission of results from the marking centers to the headquarters. Those are the results right now. We'll continue to give you reactions and a further analysis of this from around the country, but want to do that now for a different audience, for a different language, and I'd like to hand over now to my colleagues